Welcome to the Future Ready Firm podcast. Here we speak with founders, presidents, CEOs, movers, and shakers in their industry. We discuss what has worked, what has not worked, and the plan for the future proof of their business. Today's guest is Robert Owens, who is the operating partner at Romulus. Welcome, Robert. It's so
Thank you.
good to
It's good
have
to see you.
you.
It's good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, for viewers and listeners, we can start off. Do you mind sharing your background,
Sure.
letting them know your role and what you do?
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2001. Built 7 companies from scratch. I've sold 3 of them. One was a $65 million a year LED lighting manufacturing company. Since then, I've helped consult for companies bringing 3 manufacturers from overseas manufacturing back to domestic manufacturing in the US. And in the last 5 years, using automation and AI, I've brought 2 companies to exceed $100 million. One of which was a food manufacturing company where we actually fed children at home during COVID who couldn't get food any other way. We fed 35,000 children 2 meals a day, 7 days a week. We rolled 88 trucks every morning and used automation and AI pretty significantly in there.
Wow. Wow. That is wonderful. That's impressive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. It sounds impressive, but it was just mostly torture.
How you said you had AI just like automate it.
We did, but you still got it. This was early on where AI was just kind of taking breath. So we wound up having to do a lot of straight line automations and then slowly adopt AI into it. But
Oh,
it was a lot of trial and error. I mean, there's a lot of, in the beginning of any AI journey, there's a lot of trial and error that goes into it. And unfortunately, we had to pay our dues back in that point in time so that we're good at it now.
got it. Got it. Wow. So how were you able to find those 35,000 like children? How did you determine where to find? Did you just go through schools and
So
where you deliver? I'm assuming because it's COVID, everyone is at home.
everyone was at home.
Did they
We
give
were,
you their home addresses? Like how
yeah.
how did you even go about that?
So we had to go about signing an agreement with the state and with FEMA and the FDA to be allowed special privileges to have student data that came in. We had to keep it, of course, very secure, and we used that data to be able to deliver food boxes every week to their homes. Because in Louisiana, there's a lot of majority of children are impoverished, and the only meals they get during the day are actually at school. And so during COVID, when everybody went home, there was a need for feeding children at home and
Mhm.
finding a way to get them food. So the state and federal government were more than willing to work with us to get everybody fed. And it was a group of food truck owners that got together, and then I joined a little bit after the fact, and really did a great job feeding children during COVID.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm sure those families greatly appreciated it.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of them were grateful, especially the kids. So
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. So earlier you mentioned that you said 7
7 companies.
businesses,
Mhm.
but you have sold 3?
Yeah, I've
Which
had three
industry
successful exits. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, which industry would you say the 3 that you sold were in, and which industries are the ones that you currently still have?
So 2 of the companies that I sold were in automation, which is Uh, we did building automation and residential automation where we automated everything from door locks to lights to HVAC to um, access control, security, and fire. And then the third one was an LED lighting manufacturer. I'm actually the one that brought LED lighting to the United States back in 2005. And
Wow.
I don't recommend getting into any business 7 years before the rest of the world knows what it is. But that's what we did. I actually invented the LED T8 U-shaped LED T8 LED panel and candelabra, and then I paid for the dimming circuitry that was invented to make it compatible with dimmers that were on the market back in 2007, 2008. Built it up to pretty good size, and then sold it in 2013. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I know you probably had your challenges because just like you said, don't bring anything 7 years before people are ready for it.
it was. I didn't know anything about manufacturing at the time. It was new to me, and the first conversation I had after I got my prototypes ready, showed them to people. They're like, that's awesome. Send me a white page. And a white page, for those that don't know, is a descriptor page that is like, what does the bulb do? How much electricity does it consume? Tell me about the technology that's in it, all that sort of stuff. I had no clue what that is. I said, absolutely, I'll send it to you shortly. And I went straight to Google to find out what a white page was.
That means you were made for entrepreneurship because that's what an
I was.
entrepreneur does, you know?
Yeah.
You go and you find the answers.
Yeah.
So it's totally okay if you don't know the answers like right while you're in front of your client. That's totally okay.
Yeah. You just got to, well, sometimes you fake it till you make it, but eventually you learn enough to not to fake it anymore.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So now you're mainly at Romulus
Yeah.
or like are you still active in the other companies or you have
No,
somebody
I've
else
sold my
running?
interest in all the other companies. I actually started an AI agency about a year ago and recently merged it with Romulus.
Oh,
And so I found them in doing. Do you want me to go ahead and tell you what Romulus is? Okay.
yes, please. Because also too for our viewers and listeners, they don't know. So the
Yeah.
more information we give them, the better they'll be able to understand.
Okay, so it's Romulus.live's the website, and Romulus is a proprietary voice AI and chatbot system. And we actually developed it for the end user in mind. I found these guys that invented this, they've been in telephony and IVR, which is voice recognition on phones, for the last 10 years.
Mhm,
And so they're used to routing calls, doing all that sort of stuff. And they came in and built Romulus. And
mhm,
when I found them, I was like, I've got to bring you guys to the United States. Because I experienced on the dealer side and the customer side of voice AI, what winds up happening is voice AI can be very temperamental and it can be very fragile to where any small change can make a major change. Small change to the programming and the prompting can make a major change to the actual functionality of the AI. And so
mhm,
what we've done is created a platform where we write the original core prompt and then give the user, either the reseller or the user, the ability to log in to a dashboard, update the prompt, run promotions, run specials, update the knowledge base, do all of that independent of having to hire a developer without fear of breaking the system. Because coming from the automation background, the worst part of my business was I was the only one, and my company was the only one that knew how to manage the product that we developed. Because we were the only ones that knew how to program the lighting. We are the only ones that knew how to program the HVAC. And
mhm,
so I wanted to take a step further with Romulus in that we didn't want to be the only ones that knew how to work it. And so we developed it on with the end user in mind, to where we build something that they can't break. We build the core for them, and then they can go in and modify and do prompting on their own. They can clone their own voice if they want. Like, one is selling real estate, the other one they want to sell loans. They just clone it and change the knowledge base all on their own. And we do the same thing on the chatbot side. A couple of neat features that we've put into both of them is on the voice side, it detects intonation and voice. So it'll detect whether somebody's hesitant, whether they're urgent, whether they're angry. And it knows that in certain situations to bail on the script. And what I mean by that is most IVR and most voice AI systems kind of plow through the user, the person talking to them, to get to a certain point. What
mhm.
we've done is put in fail safes so that if the user seems hesitant, if they seem urgent, if they seem panicked, if they seem angry, it says, "Look, you sound XYZ. Let me go ahead and forward you to a person." So it knows the intonation of the people and does a great job of picking that up. The other thing that we do that's pretty unique is we give feedback to the company that owns the voice AI and the chatbot with unanswered questions. So that's probably the biggest thing is, well, how are we going to update the system to answer questions? And how do you
Mhm.
know what those questions the AI couldn't answer were? And so
Yeah.
we actually have the AI list out on it questions it couldn't answer so that those can be updated by the user in the system in their knowledge base and their FAQs or whatever. So the AI going forward has that information.
Wow. This is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, but it really it's to serve a purpose because most of the voice AI systems that are out there, and we're agnostic to the voice. We can use VAPI, Retail, 11 Labs, whatever voice you like. What we wanted to do is give a unique way to resellers as well as end users to update it on their own.
Wow, wow, that's wonderful. I've seen a lot of ads lately, because you know how it is, like, and I'm sure you're seeing it too. You can't go on your phone and not see like all these AI ads.
Hmm.
I can't think of the exact names right now just because there are so many coming at me on my phone, but I've seen several ads for like voice AI,
Hmm.
several ads where they're saying, "Oh, we can build you an AI chat bot or an AI, there are other types of bots out there too that you're like, we can build you, the AI bots for whatever."
Right.
How would you say your company, in terms of
Hmm.
your product, your service, how would you say that yours would differ? And when I say this, let's say someone is listening or watching the podcast
Hmm.
and they're actually like, like at a crossroads where they're like, oh my gosh, I keep seeing so many ads for, voice AI, chatbots. Like they don't even know where to begin. So, how does your product, how does your service stand out from the rest? Because I'm sure there's also a lot of noise out there right now, as you know, with AI. So,
Hmm.
just in case, like they're thinking, maybe I should go with Robert. Robert's company, they seem to know what they're doing. Can you just share?
Yeah, so we're actually in this twofold. So until we get our dealer base substantial, we're actually doing direct to consumer, which we'll do probably for the next 12 months or so. And our original goal is to get the people that are building the bots and building the voice systems to have them utilize our system because it gives their customer freedom. It gives them the ability to speed up their deployment. So the biggest thing is I've got a team of 13 developers behind me that in the event that we run into something that is tricky, if the programmer's running into something tricky or the customer's running into something tricky, I've got 13 people behind me that can really dive in and get something solved.
Hmm.
The biggest use case difference is you don't need to know everything about what, and forgive the terminology, but it's webhooks, APIs, all of that we take care of for the customer. So they're literally, it's just reading a prompt. The job for the consumer is literally just reading a prompt, which is a flow of a conversation and saying, okay, I wish it would do this differently, and updating it themselves or asking us to update it in the beginning. And then the long term use, where we differ is really in after the fact. We're cost competitive with what's on the market, but after the fact, we're significantly cheaper to operate simply because you don't have to pay us $100 every time you want to update a system. You don't have to wait for our timeline. You can run. I've had instances where we've had clients that had to hurry up and shut down on a Monday. Well, any other voice AI system, unless they're the ones that programmed it, if they relied on a third party to program it, then they have to wait on that third party programmer to actually log into the system. They got to pay them typically money to update the system, and they may not get to it in time. So, what if it's a restaurant and we're taking orders and they're closed on a Monday? And what we wanted to give them was the ability to log in themselves and set all their times, set all that themselves, so the AI bot knows Monday I'm closed, Tuesday I'm back open, without having to call a developer, without having to call the only person in the company that knows how to operate the AI. Somebody can literally update a Google sheet and it updates the AI. It's that simple. And so we're agnostic to voice, which means all the other voice systems that you're seeing, whether it's 11 Labs, VAPI, Retail, you name it, we actually can use those voices inside of our system. We just program around it to make it simple.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all that insight. I'm sure the viewers and listeners, that will definitely give them clarity, especially, if they're at a crossroads and they're like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay." So that's good to know. Thank you. So, what would you say are some of the trends that you see happening right now in that industry?
There's a couple of good ones and a couple of bad ones. The most concerning trend I see is people thinking AI is a magic box where it can just do anything.
Mhm.
The other trend is people trying to replace employees. I don't think we're anywhere near that timeline with AI. Where we are is we can prevent you from needing to hire more employees to do more. On average, I think it's 35% of employees across the country in the United States are engaged in their jobs. So that leaves 65% of work that needs to get done. AI can pick up the 80% load and leave those employees that are engaged and also help you get more engaged for the rest of the employees by leveling up their skills, their capabilities, and what they can do. We can handle mundane tasks like email sorting, We can auto draft replies to emails based on content and your tone of voice. We can answer phone calls, qualify leads. We even use AI to do cold outreach where we send about 1,000 emails ourselves a week. We get usually 40 to 50 meetings off of those emails. We offer that as a service too. But there's things that you can do to maximize and level up the benefit and the capabilities of your employees rather than replacing them. What we don't want to do is I've found too much AI in business tends to make the customer angry because in some ways they feel ripped off. They feel like you're trying to trick them. They feel like you're disingenuous by putting too much AI in. So getting an AI, and they don't necessarily want to talk to AI. I mean, you can go to Taco Bell and talk to an AI right now to take your order. I've done that twice. The first time it messed up my order. The second time I made the same change and it got it right. So they are getting better. But for the most part, it's less about replacing people and it's more about leveling them up. Other trends are using
Oh,
them
can I
for
can I say something
yeah,
real
go
quick?
right
Can I
ahead.
interject?
Sure.
So, I'm sure you've seen the news where like lots of companies, big tech companies, companies that are worldwide that we all know, they have laid off thousands of developers,
Yeah.
thousands of other like IT professionals. Like I'm sure you've seen it,
I've seen
Actually,
this.
if I say this, it's public news. It's all over the newspaper, so it's okay if I
Mhm.
say it. But companies like Facebook slash Meta, Google, Microsoft, we've seen it, and the list goes on. They have literally laid off thousands of IT professionals. Do you think they made a mistake and they'll soon realize they made a mistake? Because like
Mhm.
their reasoning behind it is, oh, AI will replace those
Right.
IT professionals who they laid off. But what's your opinion on that? And I know it's just your opinion, so you're free to, say
Hey,
whatever.
I don't mind sharing. So this is a good point, and this is exactly the separation that I want to have for the difference between most of the listeners of this are going to be small to medium sized businesses
Mhm.
compared to mega businesses. So the mega businesses actually built the AI. They trained the AI how to program, and yes, AI can do 80 to 90% of the programming now. So it's harder to justify keeping a developer position because AI, even Grok and those companies, ChatGPT's like at 80% of the code written is by AI. And so it's hard to justify keeping those employees. Where I see the concerning trend is in small to medium sized businesses think, well, Meta can do it, so can we. The problem is they don't only hire developers, and AI is still detectable relatively easily by its tone of voice, its mannerisms, how formal it is. It's not quite to the point where people are going to be 100% fooled by it, and those that feel like you're trying to fool them by it tend to get angry. And this is where we want to be clear with like say, hey, I'm an AI assistant, so that way people have a mindset to treat it properly. But what you don't want to do is just say, okay, my receptionist, my salespeople, all the people that run the business on a day to day basis, those are not
Mhm.
replaceable. But
Mhm.
what you can do is you can get away with less future hires by leveling up their capability. Because let's say your receptionist spends 50% of her time, so 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, she spends answering phones and qualifying leads. Well, if we can get that done through AI in a non offensive manner, then that frees up 20 hours a week for her to do something more beneficial to the bottom line of the business. Same thing with salespeople. We can make sure that the leads are qualified before they get to the salespeople so that they're not calling somebody that was just shopping around or a competitor.
Right.
But what we
Yes.
what we don't want to do is necessarily follow the trend of everybody laying off everybody simply because AI still hallucinates. It's not 100%. It's not at a place where you can do that. Now, for code, because the companies that invented AI are primarily coding companies, that was where 99% of their effort was to make it to where it can repeat code and do it reliably so it can build itself. That
Mhm.
makes sense for those layoffs. I think that those were probably, as a business person, hard to justify keeping those employees when they literally weren't doing anything. But for the majority of businesses, there is not really a justifiable method to use AI to replace people. There is one to make your people better.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's probably the message that needs to get out there in terms of whether it be small businesses, medium sized, large businesses. I think that's the message that needs to get out there. But as you know, one of the first messages that got to them came from like a tech billionaire
Yeah.
who pretty much said that by 2030, AI is going to replace, I forgot what the number was, but it was hundreds of millions of jobs
Yeah.
worldwide. So
Yeah.
that's like the only thing that's stuck in most people's heads. And it's as if, it's sending like widespread panic, like literally across the world.
One, it makes adoption of AI within businesses difficult because only the executives want to incorporate it. Everybody else is going to feed false information. They're going to leave information out of the training of the AI. If they feel like this is coming for their job, you're not going to be able to incorporate it into your business in a truly beneficial fashion because you're going to have revolt, inward revolt from all of the employees. They're saying he wants to put this AI in to lay me off. Where we want to pitch is say, look, we're not here to lay you off. I as a business owner, I can grow my company substantially bigger, have handle more volume with fewer employees. It doesn't mean I want to get rid of the employees that I have. It just means I don't have to hire as many as we grow. And that's the message that really needs to get out there is you can get away with fewer people because AI is handling the mundane tasks, not replacing the people. It's making the people more of an expert
Uh-huh.
than a generalist that has to handle multitudes of situations.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I know that different because I've spoken to like some presidents of certain companies and some CEOs, etc. It's kind of like I'm getting like everyone has their own information, their own perception of AI. Like for
Mhm,
example, one CEO said to me, he was like, "Oh, he was talking with another CEO friend of his,
mhm,
and they were able to use AI to pretty much like automate an entire like department, you know? I think it was like their accounts payable department. And
yep,
they were also able to I think automate like 80% of like HR.
right,
So there's like one who's there saying it's doing a great job. He feels like he doesn't need like 4 people working in the HR department anymore. He probably only
mhm,
needs 1. Same thing too with like accounts payable. That CEO was like, they no longer need 2 or 3 accounts payable clerks. They
right,
feel like now they only need 1 because he was like, AI is actually doing the job of all 3, but
yeah,
you need a human being around just in case the system breaks.
yeah. Well, it's more than that. So the people that are willing to cut employees, I believe, are short-sighted in the growth of their own business and the potential that AI can bring to the business. AI can truly take a $4 or $5 million company and make it a $20 million company at the same size. So
Mhm.
I would focus as an executive and have and like I said, grown 2 companies to 100 million. I focus on let's get all the mundane stuff out the way so that everybody's firing on all cylinders and then grow the company. If I had 4 people in HR and 10 people in accounting, I would say, okay, that means introducing AI means I've now increased my capacity for how much sales can do. So I've given my company headroom to say now I can activate the sales team to say go after it. We don't have anything holding us back. The failure to acknowledge potential growth by using AI only as a using it only as a contraction or a savings mechanism, I think is where the mistake comes in. Because you're no matter what, that may be your mindset. The employees are going to pick up on that, much like kids know what's going on, even though you don't know, even though you haven't told them anything. Employees are going to pick up on that. You're going to get false information that's going to be fed into the AI. People are going to do what they have to do to protect their jobs. Whereas if you say, this is your new partner, use it for everything, talk to it, utilize it, teach it everything so that you can do better and better things and you become more valuable. And it does 2 things for your workforce. The more they know how to work with AI, the more valuable they are and the more likely they are to continue a job should AI start shedding some employees in the future. And I think it is a possibility over the next 5 to 10 years to shed some positions. And so you're doing your employees a disservice now by either cramming it down their throat and saying, you have to do this and then I'm going to fire you. Or where the benefit is saying, look, I want to look out for you long term. You're going to have to know how to use AI in the future. We want to go ahead and adopt it. So let's learn together. Let's learn the
Yes.
pitfalls. Let's build more headroom in the company so we can take our $20 million company to $100 million. And then you're focused just on acquisition and sales. You know the back end is going to be solid. You know that the employees are going to be solid, that they're going to be bought in, and they're going to continue to grow their skill set so that you're doing a service to your employees as well as your bottom line. Because I mean, imagine taking a 20-person firm and growing it from 20 million to 100 million with still 20 or 25 people. That is pretty difficult to do
Mhm,
without AI. It's next to impossible. Everybody's pulling their hair out because they're overworked. And
mhm.
but we can do that now with still maintaining the 40-hour work week and growing with AI. So that mindset needs to shift from I don't need people to I don't need
A
more people yet, but I can grow 2 to 3 times the size.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. I yes, I love your view on that, and that is absolutely true. I totally agree with you.
Mhm.
So that means now that you've implemented AI in your business, you've been going leaps and bounds.
We're able to go much faster, much quicker. Um, we got to the minimum viable product probably about 3 4 months ago, and now we're bringing on 25 resellers in November, bringing on 40 in December, 60 in January, and so forth, and projecting in our year. We've proven it by doing stuff for a major league baseball team for their coaching. We've done medical facilities, hair salons to restaurants and the like, and especially restaurants for taking calls. That again, most of the time the bartender or the hostess is taking all the calls. This is another opportunity to sell more. If we can have AI say, I'm an AI assistant, I'm going to take your order, it takes your order, repeats it back, then you've freed up your receptionist or your hostess and your bartender to focus on customer service inside the restaurant. That's
Mhm.
how we need to think of this is how can we benefit our customers and how can we benefit our employees?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Pretty much for your company, you work in like several different industries because you just mentioned like medical, restaurants, hair
Yep.
salons. So you're
Well,
like across
we
several
we stick
industries.
with we stick with voice. Obviously, our lowest hanging fruit are people that have emergencies like plumbers, HVAC, electricians, many of the service based businesses that have emergency situations because our AI can detect emergencies
Mhm,
and tone of voice, it does a real good job of handling those. So that's our primary customer base. But we are prepared to go into. We're going to dive heavily into medical over the next year. It's
mhm,
about $1,000 investment to get all the certifications you need to work within medical, and those are all underway for us. We, in order to be HIPAA compliant and compliant with data privacy and rules and all that, there's a lot of certifications. But in the meantime, we're doing while we have done some that don't. We've done some voice systems that don't require HIPAA qualifications yet, but for medical, where it's just scheduling appointments and the like without needing to get their personal details. So, but yes, we're capable of handling a broad range, and like I said earlier, our primary focus is to get away from going direct over the next 12 months and focus in on resellers that want to build AI systems for people. Excuse me. Doesn't mean that we aren't taking on private customers in the meantime. They just get better customer service because they're dealing directly with us.
okay. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. So what challenges are you currently working through and what challenges do you think you could possibly face with, like in the future with what you just said?
So biggest challenge now is the pace with which things change
Mhm.
because all the tools you're using to work with AI, whether it's Google, whether it's, let's just say, some other tools like N8N, Make.com, Zapier, even the voice agent systems like Vappy, Retail, and 11 Labs, in order to get all those communicating,
Mhm.
you can typically get them communicating for a few months in a row, and then they upgrade and change the way they communicate. So it's that constant keeping pace, which is why we built Romulus to bypass the need to worry about when the situation changes. We manage
Mhm.
all that on our back end.
Mhm.
But what you wanna do is not what you wanna do, but the challenge is keeping up as a human with the pace that technology is growing right now. I purposely spend 2 to 3 hours a day of my workday just studying what's happening, what's going on, what's new, what's coming out, so that not because I'm tool hungry, but because I want to understand where the situation is, where the environment is growing and where it's going to have pitfalls. And it keeps me able to be a good executive, a good leader to know where AI is going, given I'm in AI. Future challenges are going to be I see in AI over the next several years a small commoditization of some aspects of it.
Mhm.
And so maintaining that separation of what happens with those offering a commodity
Mhm.
There's companies right now that'll offer do it yourself AI voice for $100 a month. That's not us. And we don't want to play in that world because it's really difficult with AI to you can still kind of predict your monthly cost based on historical data of phone calls, but you're running into how many minutes are you using for the voice system, how many calls are you making to AI. All of that is an unknown until you get historical data. So I think there's going to be a lot of companies trying to say, I'm going to give you a bundle for $100 a month just to get
Hmm.
customers. And then they'll
Yeah.
sell out their customer base, which is where I see this some of the trend going, which is a negative trend in the industry, is a future selling out of customer base by commoditizing people just to get people in. They're willing to lose money, and so I think there's a danger of people falling for those companies and then never really getting the full benefit, or going back to the days with voice AI where you're getting prepaid minutes from your cell phone. It's very realistic that that's where those companies are headed, is you're going to wind up getting into this contract debate over and over again with minutes, with all of that, compared to getting a whole solution.
Yes. Yes. I can totally see that too happening. That is
Hmm.
so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Cuz I think a lot of the companies, like the AI companies, a lot of them they're like on the scene and it's almost like they're trying to see what's the latest trend and
Yeah.
everybody's trying to like jump on the latest trend. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
And meanwhile nobody's getting good at it. So,
I know, I know. I think like for a lot of people, they're just like, let's just jump in and ride the wave, you know? So people are all about let's ride the wave and make some money.
mhm.
But yeah, you're absolutely correct with a lot of them are not good at it or not becoming good at it. I think I read an article recently, maybe like a few days ago, where they said we have like an influx of like everyone trying to get a piece of the AI pie right now,
Yeah.
but they feel like over the next 1 to 2 years, all that noise will die down.
It
And a
will.
lot of these people who are jumping in, like they won't exist in a year to two because
Yeah.
of how AI will continue its transformation.
So I think that's a astute observation. And I say that because what I see is you've got thousands, like you said, of former developers that are now unemployed and
Hmm.
going, well, how can I still capture a part of this market? The issue that I'm seeing is the same thing I saw in the automation industry, where you've got a bunch of guys that are really technical with no business skills.
Hmm.
And so that's actually a service that I provide to our dealers, is they get a one-on-one meeting or a group meeting with me once a week to go over their business side, because I'm interested and invested in their business succeeding.
Hmm.
And so with the influx of people that are technically minded but business ignorant, and I say that in the polite sense, in the literal sense,
Hmm.
they're ignorant of what it takes to truly operate a business. And
Hmm.
so they can get caught up in doing all the technical work and then lose it on the business side by not properly managing the funds, not properly managing cash flow, not properly managing their forecast and their pipeline. And I've seen a lot of influencers that are heavily focused on just get more sales. Eventually, if you get too many sales, you can't keep up operationally with the sales and it all falls apart.
Yes.
And so I see that need too, just like you have. That is something that we address within Romulus, to work with the resellers to say, look, we're going to continue to train you on business as well as AI. And so I agree completely with you. There's thousands of people getting into that market. There's probably hundreds to maybe a couple thousand that'll survive. And that's hard. It's hard as a consumer to trust the person you're working with as a freelancer, because again, you're building a system that only they know how to operate.
Yes.
And we want to get away from that. We want everybody to be able to operate what we have. And so that you're not stuck with the developer, you're not stuck with any of that. We are prioritize the consumer, and not just the reseller, but the consumer as well.
Yeah. I really like the way you have your business set up, your
Hmm.
business model, and that makes a lot of sense. As well as it also frees up your time
Yeah.
and people on your team. Because the last thing you'd want is someone calling you like at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday or 9 p.m. on a Sunday, saying,
Yep.
hey, we're trying to get this going and something isn't working, or how does this work? Can you walk us through it?
Yeah.
Like, that's the last thing you want. You want to be able to free up your time and. So
Well,
I love your model,
that's
your
every
business model.
reseller, and I lived in that world for better part of 15 years. as a hardware automation person. And it's what made me want to sell my company was because I got those calls. I mean, I literally spent New Year's night at a guy's house because his house got struck by lightning and we controlled all his lights, and I had to go and manually rewire everything to get his lights turned back on. And so I have been there, I've done that, and I've learned with Romulus where we want to free the reseller and the consumer from that burden.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. Been there. So for you, you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and probably even the flip
And the
flop.
scars.
Wonderful, wonderful. So just before, thank you so much for all that insight. That was great. Just
Sure.
before we wrap up, would you like to tell our viewers and listeners how they can reach out to you or your company if they're ever interested in your services, your
Yeah.
products?
Yeah, so you can go to romulus.live. You can actually call the number at the top and play with our voice agent, and it'll take your information and get you in touch with us. Or you can email me directly, robert@romulus.live. And more than happy to take on calls to just answer questions, no matter what it is. So we'll go there. That's really as simple as it is. We've got our voice agent already set up to handle inbound calls. So you can call the number at the top of romulus.live or email me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your contact information
Sure.
with our audience. And thank you so much, Robert, for joining me today on the Future Ready Firm podcast. It was
Absolutely.
such an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.